What's up, everybody? It's your boy Season. So today we've got another metal build Gundam review. We're going to be taking a look at the Force Impulse Gundam. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go. So let's see what we have inside here. So first, we've got the manual. So that's pretty normal. So we've got that. Looks like we've got the Impulse here. Now he is not in the traditional styrofoam. Looks like Bandai is going away from that with their new releases. So we just have the plastic here. We've got the shield there with the beam rifle, get an extra V-fin there. You've got the armored Schneiders there. You get a plethora of hands there. And then that's probably the leg flyers there and the core splendor there. So you've got that. We get the Force silhouette. So those are the wings there. That's the backpack there with the two fins. There we get the anti-ship sword there, and you get two beam sabers there, and then you get the silhouette flyer there. So you get that, and then you get the base of the stand here. You get all of the beam effects there for the anti-ship sword there too. You get the actual stand there. Looks like you get the parts for the parts to simulate when the Impulse is launching, so you do get that, and you get this little weird piece here. So I'll be interested to check and see what all of this is about. So that's what we got in the box. So let's take a look at the Impulse himself. So let's take a look at this Force Impulse. So first things first, he looks really, really good. So I like the color detail in here. So with the gold, with the sky blue, or I don't know what you would call it. It's got like a hint of green in it, and it's definitely got like a pearl sheen on it. So I do like that. Of course, we have our typical die cast parts here and in here on the arms, got some on the legs. So he looks really, really good. Of course, that's the back. And then with the core splendor there. So that looks really, really good. Not a lot of decals on him, actually. I'm actually quite surprised by that. So he's got some decals here on the shoulders, but that's really about it. He's got a little bit here, but there's not a ton in there, but he does look really, really good. So I'm really impressed so far. I've always liked the head sculpt of the Impulse as well. It just looks really, really good there. So, and for whatever reason, the Impulse has always kind of reminded me of the Victory Gundam or the V2. So I don't know why, it just does. He looks really, really good. I'm done gushing at him though, so let's get into the review. So let's take a look at the Force Impulse's accessories. He has a decent loadout here, so we've got a little bit to go through. So here we have the Force silhouette. This pretty much is the Force Impulse Gundam's backpack. So it's kind of like the Strike, the L Strike backpack. So it's very, very similar to that. So you do have this here, and you've got the back thrusters here. So looks very, very good. So this is really interesting. Also, what I want to make note of is this joint right here. This joint, for whatever reason, will only go up. It does not go down at all. So this will fold in, but it only goes up. In the master grade and some of the other variants, it will go down. That was how it was normally folded up before he would connect to the Impulse Gundam. So I just wanted to make a note of that, but you do have that there, and then this will actually bend also like that. So that'll actually connect kind of like this. So that's what you have for the Force silhouette. Then you have the silhouette flyer. So pretty much this is what will fly out the Force silhouette. You would just connect this to the backpack there. So you do have that. It does move up as far as the thrusters is concerned. So it does look pretty good there, but that's what you have for the silhouette flyer. Then we have the core splendor. So this is the cockpit for that. So this is a little plane that would transform into the body of the Force Impulse. So you do have this. This will actually, in order to transform, you do have a little pilot in there as well, even though he's not colored, it's just gray. But in order to kind of transform this, you're really just going to take this, fold this down like this, and then you're going to take off these two missile pieces here. Don't lose these because they're very, very small and there's no place to really put them. So just be cognizant of that. And then you just fold that in, and then that will go into the back of the Impulse there. Then we have the Impulse's beam shield. So this is pretty basic for the Impulse, but you would just slide those out in order to kind of have it fully deployed there. So you do have that nice little gunmetal in here, nice gold in here. So you have the two handles here. This is the connection piece for the arm there and the handle. So that's on a little bit of a sliding track there. So that's what you have there. So in order to close that up, you just put that back like that. So that's what you have for the beam shield. Then we have the Impulse's beam rifle. So this is his standard beam rifle. It's pretty much an upgraded version of the Freedom and the Justice's beam rifle. So you do have this on this little bit of a sliding track there. So you do have that. You have the scope that will go up and down. So you do have that. So this handle will go that way as well. So you got a decent markings there. So you have that. So it looks good for the beam rifle. Then here we have the Excalibur. This is the Impulse's anti-ship sword. This pretty much is actually for the sword Impulse, but if you've seen the Impulse take down the Freedom, this is the weapon that he used to make the killer blow. So what this has here, so you have 2 points where this will extend. So you can extend it at the back here by pulling on this. So you can pull that out like that. Then you have the part at the front that will also extend as well. So you take that and pull that out there. So you do have beam effect parts for both of those extensions. So this is the Excalibur. So of course you would just close that up, just do that and then do that like there. So that's your Excalibur. And then these are the beam effects for the Excalibur. So you can kind of think of them as small, medium, and large. So as I said earlier, with the extension of the Excalibur, this is kind of like its normal mode here. So you can kind of have this and it just goes in there like that. So that's the small version. So you can take that and then we can pull that out. And then for the second largest version, we'll use this one and it kind of goes in there the exact same way. And we will pull this out, pull that out like that. And then, so that's your kind of basic one there. So that's your large version there. And then for the extra large, we'll take this, put that in there, and then this actually goes around just like this. Let's go ahead and move that in there. Boom, just like that. Make sure that that's in there nice and snug. So that's kind of the extra large version there, or small, medium, and large. Then you have the Impulse's folding knives. These will go on as side skirts. These are kind of like the armored Schneiders for the strike. So you would just fold these up and then put those in the sides there, but you do get 2 of those. And then you do get 2 beam sabers. So in classic Seed beam effects, it starts out silver and then gets more transparent as it goes down, but you do get 2 of these, and this will go on the Force silhouette as well. And then you do get an extra set of the Impulse's V-fins. I wish that Metal Builds would just make this standard in all of the Gundams, but just in case you break the one that comes with the unit, you do get an extra set there. And then for his hands, he has 5 sets of hands. Of course, he has the closed fist on him. Here he has the wide open hands. He has 2 sets of beam saber hands. This is the one that has the slanted wrist, and then this one does not, but those are both beam saber hands there. And then you have your trigger finger hands there. So that's your 5 sets. So let's take a look at the Impulse's articulation. For the head, he's got up, he's got down, he's got a little bit of side to side, not a ton though. Can he spin 360? I'm gonna say yes. It's this part in the back. What it is it's this lip here. That lip doesn't really want to get over that metal part. If you can get it, I probably wouldn't chance that. I don't know if I can get that up above that. Let's see. Nope. So that's unfortunate. But you've got about 45 degrees right there. So you've got 45 degrees on the head. For the shoulder, he can raise this up pretty high. He does have a second gimmick though, to where you can pull this part out and now you can raise that extremely high. So let's take a look at that so you can see how high that goes. So that's pretty cool there. Let's go ahead and raise this back down and put that back in. You do have this front flat part. So of course you do get a little bit here. All right. So you do get some front, not much in the back. So it will come in, but it won't go out all that much. So you do have that. And then for this part here, you can spin this 360. So it will go, it's a little tight, but you can get it. So you can spin that 360 for the bicep. Let's take a look at the elbow. So you do, let's go ahead and put that down there. So you do have that there. So that looks really, really good. You got a double hinge here and there. For the forearm, you do have a spin there. So you can spin that 360. For the wrist, you do have all the way down. That has to do with his transformation there. So you got all the way down. You do have a little bit of up, no back, no out, and no in really. So it's really just up and down that you have as far as the wrist. For the chest area, let's see if he's got any in. So that's all he's gonna do. He cannot bend down at all. He can go back some, so he's got a little bit about right there. So very, very limited, and that has to do with the core splendor, and I'm not surprised. He does have a little bit of side to side, but I probably wouldn't mess with that all that much either. So that's unfortunate. I was kind of afraid of that, and what that is because of how he connects. So if I pull him out, this is how the core splendor goes in. So when you have this part, That's kind of going to go in like that. And so that kind of limits that movement without breaking this. Now we could take it out and see if that helps. I doubt it though. So let's go ahead and put that in there and let's see if that actually, nope, it still doesn't give you a lot. Nope. So you got about the same, whether the core splinter's in there or not. So that is unfortunate that that won't move. I was kind of afraid of that. And I figured that that was going to be the case just because of how the impulse transforms. So I'm not really that surprised, but let's go ahead and get him back in there. Let's see if he can spin 360. No, he can do about 45 degrees on both sides, but you're not going to get it. And it's just, it has to do with that where the core splinter is sitting in the chest area. It's just not going to allow you to move too much there on the midsection / chest area. For the waist section, you do have the two front skirts there. So you do have this break in here. So you do have a little bit of give in and out. So I do like that. So those do move independently of each other. Let's take a look at the side ones. Now these are where you should be able to store the core splinters. Of course, I don't have any nails. So let me give my pry tool here just so we can see how that goes. And that's how the armored schneiders will go in there. So you do have that. It does have a little bit of up and down. You got some front and back there. So that's good on the side. Let's take a look at the back. And then at the back here, these will move independently of each other as well. They don't really go out that much. It does give you a little bit, but not that much. So that's what you've got for the waist. For the thighs, let's go ahead and lift this front skirt up. So let's see what we've got there. I would say you've got a little bit in between 45 and 90. So let's go ahead and raise that. Let's see if we can spin it the other way. It's about the same. And I think that just has to do with his transformation. So that's a little unfortunate. Let's see how high he can raise his leg there. So without the front skirt popping off, that's about as high as you're going to get it with the front skirt on there. And I'm not going to chance breaking that. That is literally right at 90 degrees. So you do have that. You do have a decent knee bend there. Also, you have that breakage there at the top of the knee. This is also dual jointed. It has to do with how he transforms, but you do have a solid V there. So that looks really good for the knees. And then for the foot, of course, he's kind of got the foot guard there, the shin guard there, but you do get up there. You get down all the way. That has to do with this transformation there. So you do have that. You've got a little bit of side to side, not a lot though. So you don't really have that much room there. And I don't think you have an extension in the back at all, like the strike. So it looks like that is only unique to the strike, but that's unfortunate. And then it does have die cast there in here, but just how he transforms, I think is why this is limited so much as far as that, but that's what you've got for the foot. So that's what we have for articulation for the Force Impulse. Unfortunately, he is limited due to how he transforms. And so not having a lot of ab articulation is really, I really don't like that. And I think they tried to work around it, but there's not really much you're going to be able to do. With having that core splinter right in the center there, I was thinking that maybe they were going to have it to where you could take it off or maybe have a separate frame that you could use in order to get to articulation. But unfortunately, that isn't what happened. I would say other than that, like the upper part, the upper torso part, I think outside of the chest area in the midsection is okay. I would say that the thighs are very limited. You can't really turn those in more than 45 degrees. So that's quite limiting as well. And then even on the feet, I didn't think that it was, that range of motion was very limited as well. So I think it just has to do with his transformation. And this is what I was afraid of as soon as they announced the Force Impulse, even though this is definitely one that I wanted. I thought that it would be limited just due to how he transforms, but we'll see what he can do as we go forward. So here we have the Force Impulse in its broken up form. This is pretty much how he would come off of the ship, the Minerva. So you do have all of these parts separated here. So you have the head flyer there, and you've got the core splendor there with the Force backpack, and then the leg flyer here. So I will say that you can move these arms, so you can move those as you see fit. You just have to make sure that the weight is equally distributed, because these two back pieces here, the Force silhouette and the leg flyer specifically has the most die cast in it. So this one is extremely heavy. So if I take this one off, this whole thing will just fall over. So just be cognizant of that when you have them displayed like this. You definitely want to make sure that you do these back pieces here first. You also have this connection piece here. It's kind of hard to see. I may take it off here later, but you can actually move these pieces around as you want. So not only do they move around in the little hole pieces, you also have certain holes that go around it. I think that they did this with the issue of the Providence with the funnels. So it looks like they're doing a little bit more interesting things when it comes to being able to have him set up this way. So that's what you have here. So I think that it looks really, really good. Now, of course, unless you have multiple versions of the Impulse, I don't see people displaying him like this, but I think it is cool that you can do. So if you don't want him in his Gundam form, you kind of want him in his separated form, you can do that. So I do think that that's pretty cool. And I do like the versatility that you do with the sands as far as being able to move them around. So I do like that a lot. But like I said, just be cognizant of the two back pieces, because those are the heaviest. And of course, you take either one of those off, the whole stand is going to topple over. So that's what you have there. So now what we'll do is we'll actually put him all together with the Force silhouette, so he becomes the Force Impulse. So let's do that next. So here we have the Impulse Gundam with the Force silhouette on. Looks amazing. I must admit, I think that it looks really, really good here. I like the detail, more like an upgraded version of the L Strike. And that's what I've always liked about the Impulse. I've always liked how it has looked, the colors and all of that. Of course, I'll get into more depth about my problems with it in the comparison, but I think that this looks really, really good. I think it looks really, really good. And also I wanted to make sure that it could stand with the Force silhouette on without the stand, because of course that's very, very important. I will say that the Force silhouette is quite heavy. It does have quite a bit of die cast, but also the action point for the Force silhouette is a little bit different than the Strike. And that's another problem that I have with it. But I think overall, I think it looks really, really good, I must admit. And I just like the colors here. I think that the colors are very well done, even though it's not like the line art for the Force Impulse, but I think that it is pretty close. And of course, with metal build, they always kind of have like a stylized version of what we saw in the anime. So the colors are not exactly the same, but I'll get into that with the comparison. But I think overall it looks very, very good. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get him airborne. We'll put him on his stand and we'll see how he does on his stand. And then one last thing that I forgot to mention when it comes to the Force Impulse is that for the Excalibur, he actually can hold this on his side skirt. And you have this little lip here. And what I'm gonna do is take this, and if I can use this tool, and you can kind of move that lip there, and you can move that down, and he can have the Excalibur connected on his hip if you want it. So let me move this down. Now, of course, his backpack might get in the way. Let's go ahead and move that up there and then put this in here like that, because I just wanted to show you before I forget that he can have it that way. So he does have the Excalibur on his hip. So here we have the Force Impulse Airborne. He looks amazing. I like this. There is a problem that I do have. This is kind of his classic seed pose there. So this is from the opening credits. The problem is because he has a limited ab crunch just due to that transformation, he really pretty much is just sticking upright. I can't really move the abdomen the way that I would want to because of how his transformation works. And that's unfortunate. You do have a little bit of give here on the side, so I can kind of go down or up like that. That's really about it. And then you can turn it about 45 degrees, but that's really about all that you're getting there. And so even though it looks good, because of that limited ab articulation that he has, that is going to affect him when you're trying to do some really good posing with him. So that is unfortunate, but I think overall, I think everything else looks great. I don't really have any issues with it. And so it's very much like the Strike in that manner. So I do like how that works. I think that it looks amazing if you are a fan of the Impulse. So here we're going to do a comparison. I have a bunch of other impulses that I could use, but I think I will kind of get my point across with the comparison I'm about to make. This is the comparison between the Master Grade. This one came out in like 2007, 2008, and the metal build. So my issue, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty on this one. My issue with the metal build, number one, is that the color is not what the Impulse is supposed to be. The color for the Impulse is supposed to be more like the Master Grade. Now, this is a slightly modified version. I did this one a very long time ago. I want to say probably like 2010, 2011, and this is a partially painted build. I have always been very particular about the Impulse's color because the Impulse in the show had a very much a electronic blue color, and it's more of a cobalt blue, which is this. This is actually the paint that I used for this guy, even though he's slightly dusty. More of a cobalt blue. This blue is almost like a navy blue. Also, the parts on the shoulders and the front skirts, these are baby blue in the show. This is more of a turquoise with a purplish hue on the turquoise parts, to where it's actually supposed to be more like this, which is baby blue. Of course, the yellows, this one's a very bright yellow. This is more of a gold. I'm actually okay with that. And then the whites, I'm okay with the whites as well. But this color has always been very difficult to create because if you go back to the original line art, it's a very deep electric blue. And I think that that blue is very hard to replicate. I think this is very close. Out of all of the model kits that I've seen that has the Impulse color, I would actually say that the old 1x60 high grade of the Force Impulse had the color spot on. But for whatever reason, every time they make an Impulse, the colors slightly vary. And that is one of my main problems with the build, even though I understand that I'm grasping at straws here. Now, as far as the backpack, that's another problem I have. Now, with the metal build, we have this backpack, and this is kind of like its semi-folded state. He was never like this in the show. In the show, it's more like the Master Grade, okay? So the Master Grade had the wings folded here, and you can fold these up and down, okay? So this is how he would actually come off of the Minerva, like this, not like this. And I don't know why they made that change, because the main issue that we have here is if you go to the Force Silhouette and you look at this part here, this hinge, you can only fold it one way. It can only go up, it cannot go down. I have no idea why they did it that way. That is so weird to me that they would do it that way, but it will not let you fold that down at all. So even though, yes, you can fold these in, but because of the way that they did that, it's actually weird how they have it. So you would actually have it more kind of like this if you were going to try to simulate how it looked in the show, but how this folds, you would have to go this out like this, and then like this, and then like this. But because you can't fold it down, you can't get that same look. And as small of a nitpick as that is, what you guys don't know about me and the Impulse, SEED Destiny is the show that I've watched the most. I've actually watched Gundam SEED Destiny a total of 7 times from episode 1 to episode 52, if you add the final plus and all of that. I've watched the show so much. And so the Impulse for me it's not in my top 10, but it's right outside my top 10. I think it's like 11 or 12. And so I'm very particular about this suit because it was one of the ones that I liked the most in Gundam SEED Destiny. And so how they have this, it's just so bizarre to me. And to me, there's no reason for it. That should have been easy to do, but for whatever reason, they just kind of have it like this. So now it's kind of like slicked back like this. Now I will say that that does kind of help with the metal build stability, even though you kind of see them rocking back and forth there, but that's really has to do with the feet. The differences also with the feet are very interesting as well. If you look at the Force Impulse's feet as far as the master grade, they're very much longer, to where if you look at the metal build, they're very stubby. And even though it's not a big deal, but I would prefer it to be kind of like in the middle between these two, because that will actually help with his stability. And that was an issue that they had with the Strike as well, to where I think they made his feet kind of stubby. The reason why I have a problem with that is because of the fact that it kind of messes with the stabilization, especially with all of this die cast. Not to say that this one doesn't have its own problem, because it's kind of like it's kind of like slanted at an angle for his feet here, to where this is not. So you do have those. Other than that, there's actually one other problem that I have. And the problem is that when it comes to the Force Impulse or the Impulse Gundam, with the master grade, you got an adapter so you could connect all of the Strike parts. With the metal build, the connection is totally different from the Strike. And what I'll do is I'll bring out the Strike and show you what I mean. So here we have the Strike and the Impulse. Now, this is my Otori version of the Strike. This is to simulate when the Strike was going up to get the Strike Freedom. Can you tell I'm a SEED fan? But yeah, so that's what this is supposed to simulate. Now, this is the thing. I've always considered the Impulse to be the successor to the Strike, and they're very similar as far as how they use their backpacks. But the problem that I have with the Impulse is that there is no adapter in order to make the Strike's backpacks work. If you know, in the metal build line, there is a sub line that's called the alternative Strike line. And in that line, all of the backpacks pretty much work together within all of the suits in Gundam SEED, outside of maybe like the Freedom and the Justice. But all of the Striker packs, the Astrays, all of them can use the same backpacks. They have done away with that with the Impulse, and I'm not happy about that, because there's so much that you could do with the Impulse. There's so many different variants, just like with the Strike. And the fact that they have changed how that connection point works, I'm not happy about. So let's take a look at it. So here we have the back of the Strike here and the back of the Impulse. Now, this Strike has more of a T-shaped connection point here, to where this has a 3-prong connection point on the back. So this is where the Force Silhouette goes into, and then it also connects to the Core Splendor here. This is actually just a piece that you would move that down, and so that will actually move down, and that's how you connect that part. Now, you can still save this if I'm talking to Bandai here. And the reason is you can have an adapter that will still be able to support this, because to me, there's too many things in the Strike line that now you can no longer use with the Impulse. Even if you guys decide to do a Destiny Impulse, there are a lot of different variants of the Impulse that you can use, but none of the stuff with the Strike. Even if you wanted to use the IWSP pack, you can't use it with the Impulse because of how that connection works. And even though those do have a adapter, it's not going to work with this Impulse. And to me, that is very unfortunate, because now you've pretty much just killed the alternative Strike lines where you could have kept it going with that. And so I do not like that at all. So that's what we have, our comparison between the metal build Strike, the master grade Impulse. And when I think about this, it actually makes me a little bit upset about how Bandai did this one, because I was really looking forward to this Impulse. If you guys have seen my top 5 most desired metal builds, I mentioned that this originally, the metal build Impulse, was supposed to be in my top 5, but they had just announced it when I was making that video, so I left it out. So I was really looking forward to this metal build, and to be honest, I don't even know if I would say it's really that much better than the master grade. I think, especially if you're someone who does a lot of painting and decals and kind of do a lot of modifications, I'm not even sure it's better than the master grade. So even though I like it, I'm slightly disappointed because of how they did it. And now you may be saying, well, you know, the Impulse is not the Strike, and so they're not going to continue the alternative Strike line. Maybe they'll do an alternative Impulse line. But the thing is, I'm not sure that the Impulse is really popular enough to do that. It's more, usually when we're talking about Gundam SEED Destiny, we're always talking about the Destiny or the Strike Freedom when it comes to the suits in that series. But you may even say, well, they'll never do a Destiny Impulse. No, it's funny you mention that, because that's the master grade. And they've actually had a couple of different variations of this. So it is definitely possible to get it in the master grade line. Whether or not they'll actually do it, I don't know. But I'm kind of torn as far as how I'm going to score him, because even though I think he's good, I don't think he's great. But we'll talk more about that. So let's get into final thoughts. So last thoughts on this guy, the Force Impulse Gundam. Now I'm kind of torn as far as how I'm going to score him because I kind of I'm of two different minds with this guy. As someone who is an avid Impulse Gundam fan, I'm slightly disappointed, but as a normal metal build, I think it's fine. I think the problems that I have with it mainly are that its ab articulation is very, very limited. They kind of did some workarounds as far as how to get the articulation in the midsection. You get a little bit of side to side, you get a little bit of front and back, but you don't get a ton to really do some real dynamic posing with him. And that's unfortunate. I know with the shoulders, you can actually pull those out and that will give you a little bit more range than you have when it's in its normal mode. But I think that the limited articulation, especially in the upper torso, kind of hurts him. I'm not that surprised because generally speaking, a lot of impulses are limited just due to the nature of his transformation gimmick. The fact that the core splendor is right in the abdomen there is that it makes that very difficult to move. So I kind of wish they had like a separate frame that you could use to where you didn't have that limitation, even though I know that that is definitely a stretch for Bandai to do for a metal build. They don't usually do that, but I think that that is very unfortunate. As far as the color and separation and the detail, I think that it's good. I don't really dislike it, but to me, the actual color of the Impulse is a lot more deeper of a blue here than what we're seeing here. And even though that's a nitpick coming from an Impulse fan, but I think for your average viewer, I think that this is fine. I think for your average metal build collector, that this is fine. It will definitely do what you need it to do. I don't think that it's limited in any way. I think it's just the nature of the transformation that he has. And to be honest, this is the problem that you run into when you start dealing with transforming Gundams, because they're going to have to, in order to do that, you're going to have some limitations when it comes to articulation. And as you guys know, I am very big on articulation. The thing about it is it even better than the Master Grade? I'm going to say, I don't think it's miles better than the Master Grade, not at all. I think that that Master Grade is actually very good, the Force Impulse one is. And I think that this is slightly above it, but it really has to do with the detail and stuff more than the actual articulation of the figure itself. And the fact that you have quite a bit of die cast in here, so of course he is a lot more sturdy, so you don't have to worry about that kind of plasticky feel that you get with some Master Grades. So, you know, I think that it's fine. As an Impulse fan, I'm slightly disappointed. You have to remember that this was one of my most desired metal builds, and even though it wasn't in that video that I shot for it, it was one that was actually going to make it into the video, but then they had just announced it when I was doing that video, so I ended up taking it out. And the thing is, for someone who loves the Impulse, this is number 12 in my top 25 list. And so I really do like the Impulse a lot. I just kind of wanted more. I wanted more than what I'm getting here. And especially for the price, because in the United States, this metal build Impulse Gundam is $400 plus. $400 plus. Let me say that again. $400 plus. Now in Japan, he's not that much. I would say he's probably between like $250 and $275. And that to me is definitely a fair price. But for $400 plus in the United States, unless you are a SEED fan or a SEED Destiny fan, I don't know if this is really worth picking up. You may want to wait until maybe you can get it in the secondary market and see if we get a Sword Impulse or something like that, that maybe the price for the Force Impulse will go down. I'm just not sure that it's worth $400 plus, especially when you have the Metal Robot Spirits version of the Impulse Gundam and the Spec 2 version of the Impulse Gundam available for a far less price. So if you are price conscious, I'm going to say hold off for the time being, but you know, it is what it is. I understand if you are someone who likes Gundam SEED or Gundam SEED Destiny, I could definitely understand why you would want this. Now, will we get a Sword Impulse? I would say that that's going to be pretty much a given. I would be very surprised if Bandai did not release a Sword Impulse. Now, the Blast, now that's a different story, because the Blast Impulse has a very checkered history as far as releases are concerned. We just got a Master Grade on it maybe, what, 5-6 years ago, I think? And that one was a P-Bandai, so it wasn't even part of their product line. It is a specialty item, and I don't know, for whatever reason, the Blast Impulse just, I don't know if it's not popular or it doesn't sell well. It's definitely the least popular of the 3 versions of the Impulse, but for whatever reason, Bandai does not like releasing that unit. I don't know why. So hopefully we'll get those, but I see that this one, if this one is popular enough as far as sales and stuff go, I could definitely see us getting a Sword. The Blast is kind of iffy. Will we get a Spec 2? Probably. probably, I would say, that we'll get a spec 2, but you know, it's kind of up in the air as far as how that goes. So enough rambling from me. So out of 10, I'm gonna give this guy an 8.5. He's good, but he's not great. But I think if you are someone who really likes the Impulse, you will probably want to pick this guy up. But if you are someone who's kind of teetering on the fence, I would say it's going to be really up to you, because you've got a lot of good versions of the Impulse available. And so even though it's better than the Master Grade, I wouldn't say it's by much that it's better. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you could like, comment, subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it. Send this one out to all of the Gundam fans, all of the Gundam SEED Destiny fans, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.